Sarah is one of my colleagues on the marketing team. Then we've got two great designers that I will introduce to you formally in just a second. But first, I want to take just a moment and give you a little bit of a history lesson. It's relevant to our topic today. So Brunswick Corporation is Sea Ray's parent company, for those of you that do not know, but you are probably familiar with the name Brunswick. So John Brunswick founded Brunswick Corporation back in 1845, so 175 years ago. A company that has been known for manufacturing through many different industries is now 100% focused on the marine industry, and Sea Ray is a big part of that. So today, I have two of our designers. They're two of the lead designers for Sea Ray. They're part of our Brunswick Technology Center, and it's a center of excellence that exists within Brunswick to bring together the best minds of design and engineering to build the best boat in the world. So we're really excited to welcome today. I've got Charlie Foss, who is our Director of Design. Charlie.
Hi, guys.
And I've got Carrie Fodor here also. She's the lead designer for Sea Ray.
Hi.
So welcome, guys. Thanks so much for being here. You know, just for our Facebook friends out there, thank you for joining us. I know there's a lot of people that RSVP that you would be with us this morning. So thank you. We'll be taking your questions. So be sure to chat in your questions throughout this morning's discussion, and we'll do our best to get to as many of them as we can. But our goal today is really just to tell you a little bit about Sea Ray and what inspired design means to Sea Ray. It is one of the core tenets of what our brand is. When you see a Sea Ray, you know it. And in my opinion, you love it. So I want to talk a little bit about our design process and really get to know our designers. So without further ado, let's get started. Carrie, we'll start with you. I love icebreakers. So for those of you that are expecting, a traditional interview, sorry. But I love icebreakers. Carrie, what was your very first job? And did that lead you to your path to design, or if not, what did?
So my very first job ever actually did not lead me to my path to design. It was answering phones at Pizza Hut. Well, I still love their pizza. It was just not something that I think I wanted to do forever. So I actually grew up in West Michigan. And if we have any customers watching that are from the Great Lakes area, it's beautiful, beautiful area, lots of boating. The boating culture is kind of just ingrained in you. So I knew that was something I really liked. I was always interested in creative things, whether it was music, art, things like that. So I knew I wanted to do something creative. I went to college at College for Creative Studies in Detroit, Michigan. And I majored in industrial design with specialization in automotive at that time. And so after graduating, I thought it would be really interesting to explore boats.
Awesome. Well, we're glad that you did. And Charlie, how about you? I know a little bit about your story, but for those that don't know you, could you share?
Sure. So my very first job, I started mowing lawns in the neighborhood and then moved up to washing dishes at a local restaurant and worked my way up to cooking. And so that almost led me to culinary school, which was kind of interesting. But my background in design and how I kind of got started was my grandfather was a commercial artist in Detroit and did a lot of advertising, things like that. And so I think a lot of my interest in things came from just drawing with him and seeing him sketch and all of those things. So that kind of led me down the path of design. I had a kind of a love for Legos too, so I had this kind of engineering type of mentality to me that I think fit industrial design very well. I ended up going to the Milwaukee Institute of Art and Design in Milwaukee. Graduated there. While I was in school, I actually interned with Mercury Marine twice, which was another Brunswick company and current propulsion supplier for all of Sea Ray's boats. But unconnected, I ended up actually getting a job after school as an intern at Boston Whaler through my professor. So I moved down to Florida, just saying, hey, the worst thing that can happen is I live in Florida for 6 months. I have to go back to Wisconsin after that. But ended up getting a full-time job at Boston Whaler, and then have just worked my way up into the design director role, holding every design role previous to that. And so now leading the development for all the boat group design.
Which is so exciting. That's a
Yeah.
great story. And so you've been stuck in Florida now for 12 years?
Yeah, just 12 and a half years. I've been with Brunswick, and then my previous experience at Mercury as well. So
Awesome. There are definitely worse places to be, for sure.
yes, yes.
So, Carrie, I know you had an interesting kind of path into Brunswick, and you've had a long tenure with Sea Ray. Would you mind sharing just a little bit with the group about how you got there?
Sure. Yeah. I joined Brunswick about 6 months after Charlie did. So we're kind of meant to work together. I had actually met the Sea Ray design management team at the time at the Detroit Auto Show. When I was in college, I had a model on display at the show and had presented to them. And when I graduated, I had seen a posting for an open Sea Ray design position, sent my portfolio, and they actually called me back and said, "Hey, we think we already know you. I think we met you in Detroit." And you know, one conversation led to another, and oh yeah, okay, you're right. Yep, we met. I showed you this model that I had worked on. It was a concept for Volvo at the time. And they ended up doing a couple phone interviews, flew me down for an in-person interview, and then the rest is history.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, I love the pictures, so I'm glad we've got pictures to add to it. So thank you, Sarah, for doing that.
No problem. Cool. Well, so I have a couple of questions from the audience. One thing is about understanding the design process. Someone wants to know, where do you go for inspiration for the design process?
So one of our brand pillars for Sea Ray is inspired design. It's really important to us. You know, we can get into a little bit more about our design process later, but inspiration specific, we talk to a lot of our customers to understand their needs. And we pull themes from that as well. And then from those themes, we come up with some different keywords, different usage patterns that really inspire us and give us something to project for the future. So a lot of things, whether it's going on in the world that inspire us, things that our customers tell us that inspire us, or it could just be, you know, something that's totally random that happens to spark an idea. It's a really fun process to go through.
So how long does it take from the moment Sea Ray decides to introduce a new model to introduce to the public to fruition?
Charlie's probably the expert on that area.
I mean, it can take anywhere from 12 months for some of the smaller boats to 2 years for some of the largest boats to get us all the way through design and engineering and into production. So it really depends on how much complexity is in the boat and what we want to deliver.
Awesome. So Sarah, I know we're getting a lot of questions through, so if you don't mind, you'll help me keep up with those questions. But I think the first customer question that came through, or the first Facebook question that came through, is a great place to start, and that is a little bit about our design process. And I think we kind of have 3 major phases of that. Charlie, tell us a little bit about the research phase.
Sure. So one thing that we do that I think really sets us apart and really creates the foundation for what we do is we do a lot of consumer research. So for every new boat program that we do, we actually reach out to our current customers as well as competitive owners and talk to them about their boat usage. We go beyond just a typical survey that you might see from others. Our research is it's actually kind of grounded in anthropology. It's a contextual research method where we go out into the field and we get on boats with people. We visit them at their homes. We talk to their families, and it's really just to understand every little nuance and everything that they do and why they ultimately love their Sea Ray and how they use it and why their family loves it. What's the attraction? What's the emotional connection that they have with their boat? And what keeps them coming back to boating and the specific families that we offer. So it's a really important step in the process for us because it helps guide the entire business in really creating that foundation for the business to say, yes, this is where we need to go with a new product as we get into the design of it.
And it speaks to that inspired design element. Our designs are truly inspired by our customers and by, a lot of things that are going on out in the world today. So I know Sarah's putting up some pictures that kind of go through our design process. So as you talk to us a little bit more about trends, talk to us about trends, Charlie.
Sure. So another thing that we do is we look at trends well beyond the marine industry as well. So we look at fashion, we look at home interiors, we look at automotive, everything that you can imagine we look at. We also look at socioeconomic trends with the current environment that we're in now. We're actually tracking that very closely and seeing how our consumers going to change as we come out of this. What new things might we need to introduce? What new services? How might we change the buying process? So it moves beyond just the physical design and much more into a design strategy type of thinking when we look at trends, because we are projecting out 5 to 10 years to really understand how people are going to change and what things are currently affecting what they're doing now that might ultimately affect how we design boats in the future.
Which is great, and considering our design cycle time and how long it takes to go from this initial ideation all the way through development, we really do have to be quite far ahead of schedule and thinking about where things are shifting and predictions about where things are moving. So thank you.
I have a question. Seth wants to know what trends excite you, the designers, the most.
Oh man. A lot of our designers have backgrounds in automotive design, so they're daily looking at cars and excited by every new car that comes out. So I think that gets a lot of them excited. Particularly for me, I love business strategy, so I like the economic trends, and I like data. I like being able to incorporate data and connect design to business. So for me, it's a little bit different probably than some of our other designers. I don't think Carrie's probably a little bit different as well. So.
No, I would agree with that. I think all of the new technology that's coming out is so exciting, and what can that mean for boating? And it could be everything, like Charlie said, from the way we buy boats to features in a boat, to maybe it's rethinking the entire experience of the boat. Just so many new things that are coming out that can help us just completely change the game. It's really exciting.
So we had another question. Bill Bittner wants to know, he's curious about the structure and size of a design team on a single model. Can you touch on that?
Yeah, so it's probably a lot smaller than you think. I mean, our design team overall is 9 people. So we're a relatively small team in comparison to some other studios, things like that. For the marine industry, we're probably on the larger side. But per project, it's typically 1 to 2 designers per project is typically what we do. It just keeps them from stumbling over each other as they're working on different areas of the boat. If we get too many designers on a project at once, they tend to kind of trip all over each other. Or, the other part of it is that the nice thing about boat design is that you get to design everything. So our designers are kind of multifaceted and multi-talented in that they can cover conceptual sketching, 3D modeling, color and materials, graphics. They don't necessarily specialize in any one area of design. So we really let them take the entire boat from beginning to end. And it's really cool for the designer to be able to go from that very first sketch to seeing the boat hit the water and seeing it at boat shows and seeing customers interact with it.
Charlie, that's a great answer to the best part, things that you enjoy most. But I think we also had a question come through about what's the worst part of your job? For ask a future designer, what's the worst part? Good question.
I'll take that one. I would say the best part and the worst part are probably the same thing. And that we go out and we talk to these customers and try to understand them and empathize with the things they like and the things they don't like and how they use their boat. We have the same conversations with our dealers. And then all of our research, and then all of these ideas that we come up with, you put so much of yourself into it. So it's really like, it's a profession that requires a lot of passion. And so that's awesome. That's a great thing. I think that's huge motivation as well. But also, you know, if something happens where, well, maybe this one idea that I had, maybe it's a little too expensive, or maybe, you know, this one part isn't going to work exactly how I thought it was. It's, you know, understanding the trade-offs, and that sometimes you got to let stuff go. So I would
It's all
say,
about adaptability, right?
yeah, it's the best and the worst. There's a lot of passion, but there's a lot of passion.
That's a really good answer, Carrie. So talk to us. So kind of the next step, we've talked about research and trends. Tell us a little bit about design. Personally, for myself, as I moved into the marine industry, I had no concept of how boats were actually, you know, came from this really cool idea to out in the world. So this is a great story just for me to help tell the world. But talk to me about how the actual design part works.
Just, are you talking about the process?
Yeah, I like
Okay.
ideation, from ideation through like illustration. I think it's fascinating that we draw the boats with like we actually sketch things, and it's not all just on computers.
Oh, sure.
Talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so Charlie spoke a little bit about our research and our trends and our voice of the customer interviews. From there, we develop themes out of that, and we'll find some images that we find inspiring based on those themes. And so we'll build kind of a story around the boat. What experience are we trying to create? What is the aesthetic we're trying to create? And really build kind of this, you know, visual image board of everything that's kind of our goal, our mood board, what we want it to feel like. And so I think Sarah's got an image. There you go. Here's an example. So it'll be maybe architecture images, maybe images of cars, images of just graphic patterns of personalities. It could be keywords, what we're really trying to accomplish out of the themes that we heard from our research. And from there, we'll start translating those inspiration images and those themes into actual boats, although it may not look like an actual boat yet. We call it theme translation or theme development. And so you can see the image that Sarah is showing on the left. There's some just thumbnail sketches, just rough gestural. If this boat was 3 or 4 lines, what would it be? And then selecting some of those that we think best relate to the inspiration and making it a little bit more real. So maybe it's not 3 or 4 lines, but it actually looks like a boat now as we move to the right side of that page. And so once we've started to narrow that down a little bit, we'll continue to sketch by hand and develop some more features and layouts and really cool just ideas. Just throw everything against the wall. What can we get out there? What do we want this boat to be? What's going to be new and interesting that our customers will love? And then from there, we'll choose, you know, continue to narrow down the direction, but getting closer and closer to a final direction where we'll take that into the computer and 3D modeling.
I just picture you standing in a studio room with illustrations all over the walls of all the different potential combinations to see what sticks. Is that pretty much the process you would agree with?
Yeah, well, I mean, Charlie can touch a little bit more on the process, but that's essentially it. And we also review some of our dealers periodically. We've got a couple of different dealer councils that we like to just kind of gut check ourselves again, as well as our senior leadership team. They have a lot of insights as well for what's, you know, going to work for the business, what's going to work for our customers. And our engineering team, everyone gives a lot of input into what we think is going to be the best for the customer, for quality, for production, for the business, everything just all together.
Complex process, but it's an interesting one. Sarah, do we have any questions?
Yeah, we have quite a few. I was trying to go up to the top to start. So does Paul wants to know, does the design team participate in future model direction, or is the direction handed to designers to run and explore?
No, I mean, we do all the future design work. So not only are we working on current development projects that will see production in the next couple of years, but we're also working on future concepts as well. So we try to balance the load of the designers with a little bit of both. Designers love to explore; they love far out ideas. So we need to keep a healthy dose of that in the office. Otherwise, they can get a little bored sometimes.
I think
So we do.
With it. So is there ever a point in the design process when you ask, should we revisit great ideas we've had in the past to bring them into newer designs?
Yeah, all the time. There's times that we come up with ideas that might not be feasible from a process or a technology standpoint yet. But a couple of years from now, technology might advance to a point that we can actually start to consider those ideas again. So it's always a good practice to look back at some of the things, and most of our designers have been there for quite a few years, so they recall some of those past ideas, and then they'll bring them up into future programs.
Cool.
Excellent. Any other questions we have, Sarah? I know there's a lot.
There's
There's a couple.
The questions. I've got one for you. So you did mention engineering as well. And so I know that you work very closely with our engineering team as part of the tech center. Can you talk to our group a little bit about that, the handoff between the two, how you work together?
Yeah, and I see a couple of questions around CFD, computational fluid dynamics, and finite element analysis, which fall into the engineering group, but I'll kind of cover all of that in one if I can. So one of the really unique things about our office is that we are highly collaborative with every area of our business. So design doesn't just operate in a bubble. Engineers are in design reviews, designers are in engineering reviews. We have marketing, we have sales, we have every aspect of our business is involved in the process at different points. But our role with engineering, it's a really great relationship, and I think that's one thing that makes our development team so powerful and so special, is the fact that we do work so well together. So very early on in the design process, our naval architects will actually be involved in the design process. So they're working in parallel with us in developing the hull form and working through those fluid dynamics. And so they're actually designing the running surface, and we work with them to, they kind of handle everything below the waterline. We handle everything above the waterline. It's kind of an easy way to put it. But they're doing weight calculations, they're doing performance predictions, they're making sure that everything that we're designing into the boat, that the hull performance and hull bottom can handle it. So we work very, very closely with them. And then we do have an advanced engineering team that also overlaps with design as well. So when we come up with a complex mechanism, or we come up with a new design that has never been done before, we have a team of engineers that actually begin tackling those problems in the design phase. And they're doing some of the finite element analysis to make sure that it's going to be strong enough, and all that structural analysis. So a very good relationship between the two teams.
That's excellent. You touched on performance, and effortless performance is another one of our Sea Ray brand pillars. So not only can our boats be beautifully designed, they have to perform the way our customers expect them to, and it's part of what Sea Ray's been known for so long. So that relationship is critically important. Appreciate that. Refinement. Okay, so we talked about sketching, which I think is so cool. I always wanted to be a designer, just wasn't in there for me. But about refinement, material selection. What happens after you got the perfect design?
Yeah, so once we've kind of decided on design direction, where we want to go, we start 3D modeling in CAD software. So we start to lay out the space. And I said there was a question about whether we design just basically pretty things or if it's functional. We do both. It's very important. We're a function first type of design studio. It's not just doing pretty conceptual pictures. We actually have to figure out how it works and how it's all going to be put together, because that is the experience that you have on your boat. Is does it fit you? Is it easy to work around? All those types of things. So we start to do that in 3D CAD software and start to lay out the boat, and then we'll get to a point where we do a full-scale mock-up on every single development boat that we do, and that allows us to feel it in physical space, make sure that handholds are in the right spot, seats are at the right height, all of those type of things. And then we're able to take that 3D geometry and make photorealistic images. We've started using augmented reality, virtual reality in our design process to help us validate our design concepts so we can actually take that 3D geometry and visualize it. So you can feel like it's real. The 3D renderings help us from a sales standpoint internally as well as externally. And then that data and information then gets handed off to engineering, and then that's the design intent, essentially, that engineering starts working on.
Now, I know materials, not only it will start to lean in a little bit on the pretty stuff, I guess, but the actual material selections and color selections and fabrics and thread and all the different small finite pieces that really bring the whole design together aesthetically. What is that process like? I can't imagine the number of options you must have to go through to find the perfect, right?
Yeah, I'll let Carrie cover that. That's kind of her specialty. So.
Yeah, it's a challenge for sure. So from the style side, right, we have what's appropriate for our brand. So whatever we choose, it's got to be confident, athletic, sleek, modern, all of those things that define Sea Ray. And then on top of that, what is most appropriate for the family line or the product that it's going in. And we actually have quite a few restraints, maybe a little bit different than a car, in the sense that all of our materials, they are inside and outside. So it's got to be able to withstand the elements. It's got to be able to withstand salt, sun, clearly water, be resistant to fading, stain resistant for sunscreen, mustard, nail polish. We have a test lab that tests everything you can think of. If we put these things or put these materials through these conditions, what happens? And so, of course, we can only use the things that pass all of those tests. But a lot of it also, once you get through that, okay, what's left that we have to choose from? And things like our trend research will influence that as well, because consumer tastes change and our own tastes change and evolve. And then, so we have to project, because this boat isn't coming out today. This boat is coming out, 2 years from now, 3 years from now. What will people like then? Well, I think this change is going to shift people's thinking this way, and this is what is popular now. And so I think these things will influence maybe the undertones of that color to go from yellow to green or whatever it may be, trying to tie in materials to our trend projections on, I guess, more of a philosophical level to understand what people will like in the future. So it's a big process, whether it's the style or the testing and the function of the materials. But it's actually a really fun one because it is a challenge. So
Yeah, I can't imagine.
3 years ahead of time. I mean, that's just crazy.
It's a long time. Sarah, do you have another question?
Yeah, we do. William wants to know if you could get an idea on your educational backgrounds. Did any one of you take coursework in the marine industry in school, or general industrial/mechanical design and then marine expertise on the job?
Sure. So I'd say all of our designers are either industrial design majors or transportation design majors. We don't currently have anybody that came out of a marine design program. We have in the past. We've had designers that have gone through some of those programs. I like well-rounded designers that can really do a little bit of everything and understand everything. So that's typically what we look for, regardless of what their major is or where they came from. So.
Cool.
Good question. I have one. I see that Seth asked this question, and I guess it's bold probably to read it, but I'm going to read it. I may even answer it. I don't know. We can all maybe answer it. So what goes through your mind when people describe boats as a big hole in the water, which you pour money into for the 2 best days of owning a boat? What do you think about that? I have an answer for you though. So here's my answer. For me, boating is a return on experience. I have had some of the best memories I've ever had on the water with my family. And I can't think of many other places you can spend an entire day in a 20-foot, 25-foot by 8'6" space and have the best day of your life. So for people who haven't experienced boating, they may not know what it feels like. But that's how I would explain how I answer and how I feel about that. I don't know if you guys have another opinion or feeling, but thoughts?
Yeah, I would completely agree. And one thing that it's actually a quote from Charlie that I love is, the boat is the tool for the experience. And that's how we think about boating and boats. And so when people say that, like, I laugh because I understand, like, we are boaters ourselves. But also it's trying to understand what exactly about that. So when we design this tool for this really great experience, what can we achieve with that?
Great, thank you.
Cool.
Let's see, Sarah, any other questions come through that you want to tackle? I know we're coming up on our time here.
Yeah, we can wind up, but just one last question, and I think it's interesting. What is the relative size of the design team versus the size of the new product engineering team?
About 1 to 9.
Yeah.
About, would be about right. So for every designer, there's 9 engineers. And that includes some other, I mean, it includes CAD development and a lot of disciplines of engineering. So it's not all mechanical. We've got systems engineers, mechanical engineers, electrical engineers, every aspect. And I guess it's another thing that is unique about what we do. We don't outsource anything that we do. It is all internal to our development team. So we have every discipline of design and engineering in-house, and none of it's outsourced. So something that's kind of unique to us. A lot of other companies tend to outsource a lot of their development work.
It's great, important point. And it lends into the collaboration that you have with the engineering group. You have natural relationships and you're working together on projects all the time.
Close
Which is
to
good. Carrie, you hit an important point. We're all voters. So it's also, I don't know how unique that is because I haven't talked to designers and engineers from all the other brands out there, but you know, we're passionate about voting ourselves, and it's our focus that we want to deliver the best voting experience to you, because we know the tool that we're building is going to deliver some of the best memories we have on the water. So we call it Richer Moments on the Water, lead to richer life, and we do indeed believe that. Before we go, because I think we are coming up on our time, and for those of you that have joined us, thank you so much. We really do appreciate it. You know, we're adapting. We're coming to you from our homes, and we're adapting to what this new kind of environment is like, and we look forward to bringing you some more great content through our channels. But I know Charlie and his little ones have a special takeaway for all of you that have kids that are home right now. I think you'll really appreciate this. So Charlie, do you mind?
Sure. So these are currently my associate designers. Can I show them? So what we've done is we've created a little kids coloring book. You can come in here too. I have 2 daughters. So we've created a coloring book that for all of you that have young ones out there, you can download the coloring book. It's got some of our sketches in it and some other kind of coloring pages in it that you can have your kids sketch and share them on our Facebook page. Share them with us. We'd be interested to see what you guys come up with. I know there was a question prior to this event about being able to design or have our customers design a Sea Ray. So this is your opportunity. You can add or remove whatever you like down below. So.
I love it. I love it. And actually the illustration that we have on the right side, that's our SLX-R, which Charlie, this is your approach at this R package design, right?
Yeah, that was for the 400 SLX-R is one of the sketches that we did. So.
That's awesome. Which, by the way, that boat did win the Innovation Award at the recent Miami International Boat Show. So very proud of that boat. Definitely, you know, stick with us here on Facebook. We've got a lot of great entertainment coming up. Every Wednesday for the next several weeks, we've got our Wine and Water Wednesday. So tune in for that. It's a great date night at home. You can just have your wine. We'll teach you a thing or two about it. It's great for the boating lifestyle. Learn a thing or two while we're at home. And also, we've got some concerts that we're planning for Facebook Live that will be coming soon. Sarah, anything else we want to point out?
Those are 2 big things. And hopefully we can have more of these sessions with not only our designers, but our product team, our sales team. And we hope to bring more of these to you guys.
Absolutely. So leave us a message. What did you like? What would you like to see more of? We're definitely looking forward to hearing more from you guys. So with that, we'll post a link to download your coloring book. And thanks so much for joining us for our Meet the Designers episode today. Carrie, Charlie, ladies.
Thank you.
Sarah, thank you guys so much. Great one.
Thanks, guys.